All right. So, so that's kind of our overview of election laws, right? So that you kind of know when we talk about ballot access, when we talk about petitioning, you know what to expect, what we're talking about, which is collecting signatures, raising money to pay ballot access fees, all the different hurdles, making sure that we're collecting signatures in the right way, with the right size paper, filing in the right place, all that stuff. So these are all important things to keep in mind. And the details vary per state. So you'll want to ask your state party or the campaign you're supporting for more details on that. But you at least know what to expect now, right? So now that we've covered the election laws that affect things, we want to talk specifically about petitioning now. What do you have to do to correctly petition? And what's some good advice to do petitioning correctly? So we'll talk about what supplies you need to do this correctly, and we'll give some good tips on how to work together with others for petitioning, how to choose a good place to petition. We were just talking about how you have a right to political speech and political canvassing, but where's the best place to do it? We can talk about that. We can talk about the icebreakers. So when you're asking people to sign your petition, what's the best way to approach them? What are some kind of tested and true methods for asking folks to sign? And we'll do a little bit of a Q&A there. We've gotten some questions before, and we'll address some of the most common questions, including the pandemic's not over yet, so we still have to make safety considerations because of COVID. All right, so the first thing is petitioning supplies, and of course, that means you have to have the actual petition. So I have a picture, for example, of what our petition looks like in Pennsylvania. Of course, everyone's petition is going to look a little bit different from this, depending on the laws and requirements in your state party. But I think they mostly all look somewhat similar to this, that it's some sort of legal form that you declare the name of the political party. So, we write Green Party at the top. You put the candidate's information on there somewhere. So, the name, the office they're running for. And then toward the bottom, you can, on the bottom right of the slide, you can see signatures of electors. In our state, electors are the word that they use for voters. So the voters would sign down there. They'd sign their name, they'd print their name, they'd write their address. And I see Harry holding up is that your petition in your state?
Yeah, this is the petition to get Howie on the ballot for New York State.
Great. Yeah, there you go. So it looks vaguely similar to the one that we have here. I think most states are something like this. So, there's basic information. So make sure that you have the correct petition for your state, or obviously it won't count. And as I was saying earlier, make sure it's printed on the right size paper. So like in Pennsylvania, for example, it has to be on legal size paper instead of letter size paper. So again, your state party or the candidate campaign will be able to advise you on that and get you the correct form. So when you get that, make sure that you follow the directions of the form exactly. So it might be things like make sure you're using only black or blue ink. They won't take pencils or magic markers or something like that. Make sure that they're filling out all the boxes correctly, that they sign their name, they print their name, they write their address in the right spot. One complication on our Pennsylvania form, for example, and of course it varies by state, is if you look at the bottom right of this slide where there's the signature of the elector and there's a line. If you look at the very last box, it says the date of signing right after the place of residence. So what happens? They'll write their name, they'll write their address, right? House number, street number, city they live in. And it's almost a reflex at this point that part of your address is your zip code. But notice that there is no box for the zip code here. So a common mistake is that someone will sign their address and then they'll write the zip code in the last box. But that's not what the box is asking for. It doesn't need a zip code. It needs the date that they're signing. So you want to make sure that you're familiar with the rules and exactly what information you need on this form so that it counts. And you'll want to walk people through this when you're asking them to sign and point things out like that. Like, don't put your zip code. Today is May 8th. Please write May 8th there, 5/8.
To give you one example, on the New York
Mhm.
State, the one way that they really try to trip you up is the last box here. It
Mhm.
says town or city except in NYC, enter county.
Yeah, right.
And and for example, when I write down my address, I write Deer Park, but I live in the town of Babylon. So my signature is invalid if I don't write Babylon in that box.
Right.
A kind
Yeah,
of a
this
counterintuitive thing that most people won't realize. So what I do is I put a sticky note to cover that column.
Mhm.
And then after I collect the signatures, we have a database that we have access to, the New York State voter records, and I look those up and fill in what they're expecting in that box to make sure that it's right every time.
Gotcha.
It's a lot of
Yeah,
extra work.
sometimes you have to do that. I even put a note in here, make a sticky note for the date, for example. You could put a sticky note that says today is 5/8, for example, so that folks do that and they don't get confused about what day it is or whatever. So yeah, if you need to do sticky notes or something to remind folks, that's a great way to do it. Just make sure that folks are filling it out correctly as you go. And if they do make a mistake, usually you can just kind of draw a line through it and say, oh, could you please, fill out the next line. The state is very particular about these, so to make sure your signature counts, please do it the right way. So that's the form. Obviously, to make your experience better, you'll probably want some clipboards so it's easy to hand the form to people and have them sign while they're standing up or walking or whatever. You want to have some pens with you so that they can sign. You can't expect people to have pens on them. Because COVID is still a thing, you'll want to wear your face mask and you'll want to have some hand sanitizer with you. And offering people who are signing, hey, you want some hand sanitizer is usually a good way to go. People generally appreciate that. You can even tell them to keep the pen if you have a bunch of cheap pens, whichever way you want to handle it. And then also consider the weather. Since this is all paper forms, the worst thing that happens is you'll collect a bunch of signatures on paper forms and then it rains and then your form gets all messed up. So make sure you have some kind of bag or something with you to keep it in and keep it safe from the rain, for example.
These clipboards are a little bit more expensive, but
Mhm.
it is a plastic one that opens up and I can store the papers inside and protect them a little bit better.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Yeah, exactly.